the seventh night of love and other deaths, devotion is arranged stem by stem. This story is called The Florist.
By the winter of 1887, Eliza had grown to despise roses. They passed through her hands daily, tight-butted and hopeful, or already blown open and soft as broken promises. She trimmed them, wired them, bound them with ribbon, for men who smelled of pomade and guilt, for women whose smiles trembled at the edges like cracked china. Lovers came in pairs, or singly, all of them convinced the flower would do the speaking. They could not. Eliza knew better. She had a sight, though she never named it such. It lived in her hands. When she worked, sap slicking her fingers or stems yielding to the shears, the flowers showed her things. A flash of two bodies leaning toward each other, heat shared like coals banked in a hearth. Or a lone figure, turned away, cold as river stone. Sometimes there was nothing. No faces, no future. A stem cut clean, with no sign of bloom to come. Those bouquets never lasted. Love, she had learned, was often a mask, a polite covering drawn over darker hungers, shames, calculations. Attraction, she understood. Desire had honesty to it. But love? Love bled as surely as roses bore thorns, and everyone wanted the thorns pruned away. No one wanted to bleed for their love. At first, she endured it quietly. She watched couples drift apart like poorly moored boats, all the while arranging flowers for their anniversaries, their apologies, their weddings. Then one February, with the shop empty and her own heart pressed flat by solitude, she tried something different. That Monday, a bride had come in, delicate, narrow-boned, beautiful in the way of first snow. Her skin was pale enough to seem unreal, her mouth a faint wash of pink as though color had been permitted only sparingly. They spoke of blooms, colors, and arrangements, and as they did so, the woman drifted toward the cutting table and reached out, unthinkingly, to touch a lily of the valley. The bride's fingers closed around the stem. "Would these do?" she asked. "They seem gentle." "Return of happiness," the old books said. "Sweetness restored." "They are," Eliza replied. "They bloom briefly, but they are poisonous." The bride laughed softly as though that were merely an amusing trait. She handed the stem to Eliza. As Eliza turned the flower to examine it, the sight struck. Blood, slicking soft white hands. Oh, a dying fox beneath grasping fingers. Oh, not the first animal she's killed. Oh, lips, parted in pleasure. Hands between pale thighs. A collection of bones, teeth pressing down. Fingernails crescented with red. Fingers beneath wet folds. She saw the bride's essence, saw her discovering that power once tasted had rooted itself deep. Desire to this woman was about the exquisite moment when something yielded beneath her hand and did not rise again. To this bride, the man she was to marry appeared only as a convenience, a freakish, unattractive oddity, but with a name, a legacy. Something about him unsettled even her, a door opening into a life of blood, so much blood. Eliza inhaled once, steadying herself. She answered the bride's questions as though nothing had passed between them. "Yes, lilies paired beautifully with camellias. Yes, white always signified purity if one insisted upon symbols. Yes, ribbon would soften the stems." The bride smiled, grateful and serene. Eliza took the lily from her, set it aside, and began to build the bouquet. Foxglove nestled among camellias, oleander braided beneath fern. One thorn she lacquered carefully and hid where a pale hand would press without thought. When the bride returned to collect the flowers, Eliza wished her joy and every happiness, offering her a foxglove boutonniere for her intended. The bride thanked her sweetly. Eliza watched her leave and thought, not for the first time, how easily people mistook delicacy for innocence. A few days later, on the feast of St. Valentine, while frost still traced the edges of the shop windows, a man entered Eliza's shop. He stood very still, hat in hand, wearing a neat, sober coat cut for a man of profession. A pharmacist, she thought. Someone accustomed to powders and balances, to small, precise violences. His eyes had that look, sharp, appraising, trained to measure consequence. Then she noticed the sprig of foxglove pinned to his lapel, and her breath caught. "I know what you did," he said. There was no accusation in his voice. He was stating a fact, as one might note a diagnosis already reached. Eliza looked up from the counter. "Sir, I'm quite certain I do not know what you mean." "You killed my bride." Was it painful? Was it beautiful? The questions rose, unbidden, like sap forced upward in spring. Instead, her fingers closed around the scissors beside the ribbon spool. "Oh," she said carefully, "I am sorry for your loss, but surely I could not be responsible." He stepped closer, unimpressed. His gaze flicked to the scissors now clenched at her side. She did not remember lowering her hand. She tried to force herself to loosen her grip, but her fingers remained tightly clenched. "You could kill me too," he said evenly, "but you would have to bloody your hands this time." Another step, then another. He drove her back into the narrow heart of the shop, shelves pressing close, the air thick with green life and decay. Cornered, she struck. The scissors flashed in a bright arc. He caught her wrist with ease, though the force of it staggered them both. He pinned her arm above her head just as she clawed at his lapel with her free hand, the foxglove coming away in her palm. And the sight took her like summer lightning. Blood on snow, iron rings worn smooth by centuries of vows. A man kneeling, neck bared, breath steady, St. Valentine. A blade falling clean, a head rolling into a basket, eyes blinking once at a world already lost, flowers at the feet of the dead, roses, always roses, a bouquet on fire. She saw lovers chosen and cut away through generations, marriages preserved by sacrifice, desire kept sharp, alive, terrible, a feast day declared, a holiday sustained by blood. She saw Thomas, that was his name, as a boy, taught the rite. Every February 14th on the feast day of St. Valentine, a pair of lovers must die to preserve the holiday, to make it matter, to make love worth the bleeding. Eliza saw him as a man, watching his parents, so very in love themselves, choose their offerings each year with reverence. Now those parents were old, disappointed, waiting for him to take their place, to find love, to bring a bride whose love would be worthy of the tradition. He had not been afraid of death. He had been afraid of failure. The vision broke. She was back in the shop, his hand still pinning her wrist, his breath hot against her cheek, his eyes an odd, beautiful blue, the color of some exotic poisonous bloom, held hers. "It wouldn't have worked," Eliza said, her voice catching despite herself. "What?" His voice fractured. "She didn't love you." His fingers tightened on her wrist and he leaned closer. "How could you know that?" "You know it," she said. "You were afraid." His jaw tightened. "Afraid it wouldn't take," she corrected softly. The rite can only be completed by a pair of lovers. True lovers, right? Unrequited love has sufficed before, he said. Has it? Eliza asked. Is that who St. Valentine died for? He grimaced. The truth pricked like a thorn pressed too hard. Could you do it? He asked. What? He guided her hand, fingers still clenched in her fingers, pressing the blade to the side of his neck. Could you do it? He repeated quietly. A bead of blood welled, red like a carnation. They stood there, the space between them swelling like a bud before it blooms, warm, volatile, on the verge of rupture. The air itself seemed to thicken, sweet and green and faintly toxic. Eliza felt the quickening of her own pulse where his fingers closed around her wrist. Knew he felt it too, answering his touch the way sap answers a cut. Yes, she whispered, the truth of it almost undoing her. I killed your bride, didn't I? He kissed her then. He kissed her with the certainty of something long-rooted finally breaking soil. It was heat and pressure and recognition. A meeting of hungers long denied a name. Outside the shop window, a young couple hurried past beneath the shared umbrella, laughing, unaware of what was blooming just beyond the glass.
We hope tonight's story left you satisfied. When the hunger returns, you'll know where to find us.
You've been listening to Long Winter Nights, Love and Other Deaths, a horror story advent calendar. The Florist was written by Matt Hill and read for you by Christine Hassay. The music was composed by Adrian Prevost, with sound mix by Austin Chase. Video editing was done by Matt Hill and Cody Derr. The opening narration was read for you by Alba Albanese. Love and Other Deaths was produced by Matt Hill, Chelsea Sutton, Lisa Sanaye Dring, and Lyndsey Stogdill. Executive producer meriko borogove. Long Winter Nights was co-created by Matt Hill, Chelsea Sutton, and Lisa Sanaye Dring, copyright 2026. To learn more about our team and where you can hear more of these tales, visit longwinternights.com.